Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're unpacking a really pressing, vital topic from a recent medical review. How shifting global climates and extreme weather events aren't just, changing our environment. They're actively accelerating the spread of zoonotic diseases. We're going to dive right into the data today to see exactly how this biological shift is happening in real time.
Okay, let's dive into this with a neat professional roadmap of what we're covering. We'll start with the climate-health connection, then map out the 6 zoonotic barriers, look at climate's impact on vulnerability, review major disease threats, and finally wrap up with challenges and global solutions.
Part 1. The climate-health connection. Let's establish our baseline.
So to kick things off, let's get our definition straight. According to our source material, zoonotic diseases are novel diseases acquired from animals. They possess unique features and, honestly, pose incredibly great challenges to humankind. We're not just talking about your standard human-to-human viruses here. Because they originate in entirely distinct animal reservoirs, they come with this intense level of unpredictability that makes our clinical and public health responses incredibly complex.
Now, as global temperatures rise and habitats kind of shift around us, we're basically tracking 2 specific categories of these diseases. First up, we have emerging infectious diseases, or EIDs. These are newly defined illnesses or even existing ones that are suddenly spiking in incidence or expanding their geographic range. Then we have re-emerging infectious diseases, or REIDs. These are the illnesses that we dealt with in the past, saw a significant decline in, but are now suddenly reappearing and spreading rapidly. And this just brilliantly illustrates how disrupting ecological systems, think melting permafrost, extreme flooding, sea level rise, is fundamentally altering the global distribution of these pathogens.
Moving on to Section 2, the 6 zoonotic barriers. Let's trace the pathogen's journey.
You see, for a pathogen to successfully cause an outbreak in humans, it can't just magically jump over immediately. It must methodically cross 6 very distinct biological barriers. First, it has to actually infect an animal. Second, it's got to develop the virulence to overcome that specific animal's immune system. Third, it transmits between animals, which, by the way, is often a dormant phase. Fourth, and this is the big one, the critical step known as zoonosis. It must find the opportunity to infect a human. Fifth, it has to stabilize and fight off the human immune system. And finally, step 6, it must secure transmission within the human population to truly sustain itself. It's like a biological obstacle course.
But here is the real kicker. The crucial takeaway is this. Climate change acts as a potent catalyst at every single barrier. Our source data heavily emphasizes that climate change isn't just some passive background issue. No, it's an active driver that manipulates both the host and the pathogen, basically accelerating the pathogen's success at every single step of that biological pipeline we just reviewed. And this acceleration, it impacts animals and humans a bit differently, but with the exact same dangerous result. For animals, extreme weather events like severe droughts actually force wildlife to congregate around shrinking shared water sources. This brings totally different species together that wouldn't normally interact, perfectly facilitating that early animal-to-animal transmission. On the human side, events like massive floods force severe crowding in rescue camps, obviously increasing our exposure. Plus, rising temperatures often keep people indoors, which heavily promotes transmission between family members once a disease has crossed over. So the changing environment is quite literally pushing both populations into closer, much riskier contact.
Section 3, Climate's Impact on Vulnerability. Let's look at how this is increasing human susceptibility. The data outlines how our bodies and our habitats are getting compromised through 3 main vectors of stress. First is nutritional stress. Now this is fascinating and kind of terrifying. Increased carbon dioxide in the atmosphere actually gives plants less time to absorb nutrients, which leads to malnutrition in populations relying on those crops, and malnutrition leads directly to immune incompetency. Second is immunological stress. The sheer trauma from extreme weather events elevates the stress hormone cortisol, which directly lowers our immune response. It literally leaves us vulnerable. Finally, environmental stress. Habitat destruction straight up removes the natural buffer zone, bringing humans and pathogens into intimate contact.
I really want you to hear this direct quote from the paper carefully. The adaptation of pathogen to one environmental stressor also primes them to withstand other adverse environments. This is absolutely crucial to understand. Many zoonotic diseases are originally found in wild, cold-blooded animals, right? Naturally, they shouldn't be able to survive human body temperatures.
But as global ambient temperatures rise, these pathogens are out there acquiring thermotolerance in the wild. Because they're adapting to a warmer climate before they ever reach us, by the time they do hit a human, they are already primed to defeat our body's primary natural defense mechanism, fever.
Section 4. Major zoonotic disease threats. Let's take this from the data straight to reality. We've got a neat professional breakdown of the clinical data here, tracking 4 highly recognizable diseases and their natural reservoirs. You've got the Zika virus, naturally reserved in monkeys and primates, Nipah virus, carried by fruit bats and pigs, hantavirus, originating from rodents and shrews, and the Ebola virus also harbored by fruit bats. By mapping out exactly where these pathogens naturally live, public health officials can much better track how climate events, like sudden deforestation or flooding, might displace these specific animals directly into human-populated areas.
Now, what's really interesting, and honestly what makes this truly challenging, is that a staggering 80% of people infected with the Zika virus are entirely asymptomatic. Think about that. When a disease tied to climate-driven mosquito expansion is totally asymptomatic in 8 out of 10 people, it perfectly masks its own spread. It makes it exceptionally difficult for our public health infrastructure to contain it before it blows up into an epidemic.
On the totally opposite end of the spectrum, we have the number 21. For the Ebola virus disease, 21 days is the strict symptom monitoring period required if a person has been exposed. This really highlights the intense, resource-heavy clinical protocols required for mitigation. I mean, a single case demands 3 solid weeks of strict isolation and monitoring. If climate-driven extreme weather suddenly displaces communities and causes a spike in exposure, the logistical burden of those 21-day monitoring periods could easily overwhelm local health networks.
Finally, Section 5. Challenges and global solutions. Let's focus on mitigation and adaptation. The paper outlines some severe, objective hurdles that are currently complicating our global response. We're seeing emerging drug resistance in pathogens, which makes standard treatments way less effective. Then there are the incredibly high financial costs associated with the extensive disease surveillance we actually need. Furthermore, climate-driven large-scale human migration drastically increases exposure risks across borders. And compounding all of this, the physical damage to the healthcare infrastructure itself. When extreme weather hits, it doesn't just drive an outbreak, it actively destroys the very hospitals and clinics we need to treat the patients.
So what are the actionable strategies? How do we address this? Well, the researchers demand a highly coordinated, neat, and professional approach to building resilient infrastructures. This means multi-platform collaboration. Researchers, policymakers, and business leaders all working together. We absolutely must implement advanced early warning systems that are heavily integrated with real-time weather forecasting. The paper also recommends leveraging satellite imaging technology to dynamically map out high-risk areas as these environments shift. And above all, we've got to revolutionize our diagnostic tools while rapidly increasing public awareness so communities know exactly how to protect themselves.
We've seen how rising temperatures and extreme weather alter pathogen behavior, increase our own vulnerability, and put just immense strain on medical logistics. So, I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder. As climate change aggressively reshapes global disease ecology, is your local public health infrastructure truly prepared for the next zoonotic shift? Thank you so much for joining me today for this explainer. Stay curious, stay informed, and keep learning.